because I want you to do great too. You know, I want contractors to be coming to me and asking for help. I'll be happy to share with you. I want you to be successful. I want everyone to be successful.
Welcome to RCS Radio, brought to you by RCS Columbus. I'm Michael Morris with my good buddy Ben Kitchen. Ben, things are getting crazy out there for you, for everybody. How do you feel about the kickoff of your new season?
I'm scared. There's a lot of things going on. When I look at my day-to-day operations, we got the Ohio Garden Show Expo coming on Saturday. Also, we have our kickoff with this podcast that's moving and grooving.
That is true. Are you excited about that? I never asked you this. Have you ever been on a podcast before we started this?
I have not been on a podcast before, no.
Were you intimidated by doing a podcast? Because essentially we could be giving away trade secrets. How do you feel about that?
I feel like bring it on. You know, the more the merrier.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
People will always say, well, why do you bring people on to different podcasts and you're basically telling everybody what you're going to do. I always felt like you should know what I'm going to do, and you should know the level and the intensity that I'm coming with this. I want you to know. I'm not hiding anything. You know what I mean?
Not hiding anything.
Like when you look at any of our marketing, like we push to the limits of what's acceptable in terms of how much marketing we do. The whole point is I would rather your competitors look at you and say, how do I do what they're doing?
Exactly.
Would you rather be copied or would you rather be feared?
I would rather be both, if copied and feared, honestly. I appreciate both of them. You're going to fear me, so you're going to copy me.
That's a great answer.
So I would rather them look in the corner of their eye and be like, what's RCS doing though? Like, here, I got to make a couple of decisions right now. What are they doing? How are they doing that? Why are they everywhere?
Right.
Why are they in my ear when I turn on the radio? Why are they on my Facebook when we're doing podcasts? What are they doing? I appreciate that. You guys can call me anytime. I'll be happy to help because I want you to do great too. You know, I want contractors to be coming to me and asking for help. I'll be happy to share with you. I want you to be successful. I want everyone to be successful. With me or not with me with it, but I just want you to do a really good job because we have a name out there. We have a reputation to hold as contractors. We want people to, when they call us, that they can trust us, you know, and not the other way around. Doing good work is important to keep this industry alive and just doing the right thing. How many times you have a bathroom remodeler or any kind of work that needs to be done and they're there for a day and then they're off and they're doing something else and they're just giving you the runaround, taking your money and running. It happens so often that it hurts us as contractors that we have to build that trust before we can even get into what we're actually there to do to help them out. So I encourage it. I want you guys to hear what we're doing because we're doing great stuff. We're branding our business. We're doing good business. And that's the main thing is, you know, what is it going to take to make sure this customer is happy? Let's make sure we do a good job. Let's clean up our job sites. Do everything right and watch what happens.
One of the things that I'm a kid of the 80s, right? And so as you're growing up, there's only two teams in the NBA. There's the Lakers and the Celtics, and everybody else is playing for second. And I remember they would ask Larry Bird or Magic Johnson in the years where, say, the Celtics didn't make the finals or the Lakers didn't. It was a letdown because you're not playing against the best. I think that we live in a time now, this is very old manish to say, but where people don't want to compete. So like I played ball my entire life. You played hockey your entire life. You always wanted to go up against the best, didn't you?
Always. Absolutely.
Because it makes you better. Even when you lose, you learn something from it. Would you ever turn this around and like somebody that owns a competitor comes to you and says, I want to buy you a cup of coffee. Can you tell me how you're doing what you're doing? Are you open to that kind of thing?
Absolutely. I have mentors in the industry already that I call and, hey, I'm stuck. I need your advice here. What do you think? And, everyone is running their business differently. It's about, what do you want? How big do you want to grow? Do you want to keep it small and, you're just a guy that does a couple roofs a month? Or do you want to expand and make that a bigger organization? So there's a lot of variables that come into all these questions and answers. But having someone that's been in it for 15 years, I just listen to what they have to say. And just like the old heads of the NBA and the new guys, those young guys call those guys.
Right.
I mean, Kobe used to call Jordan, and asking him, hey, giving trade secrets.
Tremendous balls, by the way, to go, who's the best that ever did this? I need their number. Do you know what I mean? But I think about it in terms of business, like when I first, so I worked in radio for 15 years, whatever it was. And then to get on the other side of it, and it's like, who can I call and ask questions? And I remember Steve Jobs had this quote that, call whoever you want. There are people that are willing to help you. But then he also said, when you realize that the people you're talking to are no smarter than you, the field is level. The only difference is how many at-bats did you have, right? How many roofing jobs have you done? How many, whatever it would be, how many times have you had a chance to do that? And how do you perfect it moving forward? What I think is interesting about you is I think when I've heard you talk to vendors, you know the ins and outs of what you're asking them, and I think there's a lot of people who are, what's the price on these shingles or what's the better product and all that. You seem to already know when you're talking to them, and I'm not trying to build up your ego, and I am trying to say I'm spying on your phone calls, but you do a lot of them while we're sitting here. And I think the person on the other line probably only has that conversation one time a day where somebody knows what they're talking about. The others are, I just need this because I got to get a crew out and all this other stuff. How did you learn to kind of bridge the gap between managing a business and being a roofer? Because I look at those as two different things.
Yeah. It's a great question. And so like my background was, I was an outside sales rep for a distributor in the tire world and in the roofing world. But all of them have their own twerks. But in the roofing industry, there's a lot of ins and outs that you should know about that as a business is very, very important. That helps with marketing funds and stuff like that. They are willing to help you out, but if you don't ask for it, they may not tell you.
Right.
And you should always be checking on your pricing to make sure that you're competitive, because when you're going in the field and you're going up against a competitor with it, you need to make sure that when you price everything out, that your price is competitive.
Do you mean the price that you're charging the consumer or the price of what you're paying for goods?
For both. So,
but which one is the most important? I'll tell you the one that I think I want to hear from you. Which is the most important?
The most important one is the price that I am getting from my distributor.
So that's what I would, yeah.
Yeah. And using your distributor and making sure that you have good relationships, and not treating your distributing rep like garbage either. Like, give them the same respect as if it was just another asset from a sales rep or your operations or whatever. Anybody,
they're another
in
tool
company,
in your toolbox.
They're
right?
a tool.
Without that vendor, Nate is listening and recording this over here, but we will have conversations about clients.
Yeah.
And when a client treats what we do, I always say, I'm not the guy that fills the pop machine. And what I mean by that is, just because we provide a service, it does not mean that this service is a throwaway thing. Like, it exists, and I say that because I used to live in a house where a guy, that's what he did, was fill those machines out.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? They're driving the truck over. No one talks to them. No one cares what they're doing. Customers kind of like walk around pissed off that they can't get to the thing they need. That guy that's making $26,000, without him doing that job, you can't buy the product. You can't sell the product. but they get no respect. If you were going to let somebody treat you like that over time, you're not going to respect them, right?
We buy our distributors pizza. When it's busy, it's going crazy out there in the summertime. We're running in there. Hey man, I need to get 2 extra bundles of shingles. Can you help me out? Dude, they know that we take care of them. We have waters in our trucks. We'll pass out waters to them as we roll up in there, just like we give to our guys putting on the shingles on a hot summer day. But giving respect in all assets if you look at the makeup of like a roofing company, I bet you I deal with 60 people on a weekly basis, if not more, that directly or indirectly work for us. And that's a big thing to understand. There's a lot of people that, are doing business with us.
Well, they're not the same 60 people in every job or every week, right? They rotate through. So you have to treat everybody equally.
Every single person matters. And until you figure that out, there is no argument. Like I run a business on good vibes, positivity. We don't have time for negativity because it burns too much energy. And we have too many things going on to worry about small stuff.
Right.
We're here for solutions. We're here to fix the issues, not whose fault was it? Why isn't it here right now with it? We're going to figure it out. So you need to have great relationships with every single person, from the guy handling the forklift to my project manager, waiting for that job to get done and make sure it gets done correctly with it.
When you did your first job, so let's go back to day one, like you're busting your tail to get this job. You're fighting against all these bigger companies. Can you go through that? Because we never really talked about, like, I'm always amazed at what was the most important sale? And really the most important sale is the first one you make.
Yeah.
And the second most important is the next one you make. The ones in between, you might remember like some struggles here or there, but the greatest thing you can ever do is that first one, because it leads to your next one.
I can bring a sales guy here, 2 sales guys. One is a guy who just started with me this past week. And the second one, a guy who's been with me for over a year now. 2 different, you ask that same question and you might get the same answer, but the first guy may not know yet. But the hardest thing to do into getting into the industry is your first door knock. Once you have the confidence to go to work, go in the field and hit up a door and introduce yourself, that right there is the most important piece.
Did you do the first one?
Yeah.
So walk me through what that's like, because you drove up. I'm getting all kind of tingly because I'm excited to hear this.
Sure.
Because I can look at it my own way. When I had to have a conversation with a client that I had in radio for 12 years.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell them, I've said nothing to anybody. I haven't even told my family at this point. If this one thing goes well, I looked at it like I'm buying my freedom.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I can still remember what I was wearing. I can remember rubbing this chair I was sitting in. Absolutely. Because I'm like, if this could change my whole life, this one conversation. Yeah. So when you drive up, describe from the time that you've stopped the truck or car, whatever you're driving. Tell me how that went. I
don't think any customer I knocked that day would have said no, because they could have seen my eyes twinkling, smile ear to ear, the grin of just pure joy. I left this job immediately. There was a storm that came through. It was this May 3rd storm 2 years ago. It was huge. It was, haven't had a storm in the past 25 years this big, golf ball size, softball size hail. It was crazy. And I was like, man, I'm sitting here like rumbling in the jungle. I'm like, man, I need to be out there.
What time is this? Is it early in the morning? Like the storm has come at night and you're like, I'm getting out there.
It came, and I think it came at 5:00 on like a Thursday. And that next day you're like, dude, every house has hail damage on their roof, their siding, their gutters. We were seeing basketball hoops shattered, windshields Body shops were probably just like, oh yeah, like absolutely super happy because every single vehicle that was sitting outside got crushed. But that day was so important to me because it is like, you work a 9 to 5 your whole life corporate job, and you got a lot of people telling you what to do, and it's the political game of, just going through the motions of that. But when you go out on your own, the flexibility, the freedom that you have, and I say that lightly because you're still going to work harder. I work harder now than I ever have in my life.
Right.
It's just knowing that I don't have to do that, but yet you want to do that because it's yours to take. It's yours to do whatever you want with it. But I have worked just as hard as I did from the day one till I do now. And
because it doesn't get slower.
It doesn't get slower. The pace picks up. I didn't think I could get stretched thin, but I'm at the point where I'm getting stretched thin, and I'm going to have to make another hire here in a little bit. And I'm excited about that. I want to.
Right.
I'm building the team up, but I'm doing it the right way. And these guys are so excited, and gals are so excited to be part of this team. The retention rate is great. They see the success. I could give them the formula. You want to be successful in it from day one. You got to go out and knock until you can't knock anymore because you got too much business.
Where your hand is bleeding. Where
your referrals are just coming in, and now you're off on the races. Now you're the roofing guy or girl. As a matter of fact, like the girls out there, the women out there that are listening to this too, give us a shot. Give us a shot. Hear us out. Let's see if we can help you out too. It doesn't take much to climb a roof, and we can teach you how to inspect it. So it is, it's just something that you have to be compassionate about, but knowing when you don't know where your last contract's going to be, you don't want to fail. Right. So you got to keep pushing.
I want to ask you what you deem as failure. Do you deem the only way I look at failure, and we sit in this studio a lot working on things where you don't know what you're doing it for. You're just doing it because it will move something a couple steps. Doesn't matter what it's supposed to do. It is, we have to keep moving on something. What I see as failure is nothing happened today, meaning I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
There's no excuse to have a day where, my dad called me this morning and I'm doing cardio at 7:00 in the morning.
Sure.
He's trying to call me because I fell asleep at 9:30 at night after taking my last call. I'm not saying everybody has to do that. Like, it's kind of a psychotic way to operate. But like you said, you're stretched thin. You're trying to elongate the day. But when I'm ready to go, like we're going to do these podcasts today. We already did some filming with you today. I don't have a break until 3:00. I'm taking my daughter to the movies because I made her a promise. Yeah. And then I will go right back to work. I don't know that people are wired that way. And I don't know. Is that psychotic? You can tell me. We're friends. You can tell me that's psychotic.
I don't think so. I just think that you're wired differently.
But see, if I was to text you at 10:00 at night, I'm pretty sure you'd text me right back. If it was, hey, I need to know about this. You and I had a conversation on a Sunday morning. Like, that's not unusual to me. But I think if you're trying to get to this next level of things, the only way you can fail is if you don't try, which sounds that sounds like Yoda.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, when I met with your team and I watched them go through a presentation. Somebody was there to do a presentation for them. They all listened. They weren't screwing off. They weren't on their phone. Like, they were listening. You would chime in every once in a while, but they were giving full respect to the person that's giving this presentation for a product that they need to know about to sell, which puts food on their table. There is a flow of business that you have kind of created yourself. There is no way you can fail as long as you keep pushing them and getting them better, right?
Absolutely.
Is that what you go for? Like, what, I guess.
Failure to me, I mean, you got to think failure to people there's different levels of failure. Failure to me is go back to a corporate job and have to punch a clock. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to dictate my day on my terms. And if I can't do that, then I have failed at business.
if there are people out there that are listening right now, because I'm glad you brought that up. So many people are afraid to bet on themselves because you could have a 9 to 5. You could get a company.
I could still be miserable and do what I was doing. But I wanted to be happy. And the only way for me to be happy is do it on my terms.
Is it to control your day, or is it because, again, I think you could have a roofing company. I also think if you open a dance studio, you'd be just as successful because you're applying the same. It's not the same product, but it's the same principles of how you operate.
I think a lot of companies, they give, a decent amount of pay to a sales rep, especially a rep that is working really hard to provide for them. And, they say, oh, it's untapped, or, here's your commission structure with it. But there's so many industries that don't pay well, even if you keep going after it. In the roofing industry, I have sales guys making over $250,000. Why? Because it pays well. It's a partnership that we have with each other. And the amount of money in this industry is crazy. There's so much profit on the back end that getting people to convert over to this, as long as they do it the right way and they understand, we give them the education on it, they can make money that they haven't seen before. And that's why it's engaging. That's why they're sitting there quiet and learning and just absorbing all the information we're giving them, because I was there too. I was right there with them. And not everyone is set to run their own business. It takes a certain kind of individual. But I can get people to learn all this stuff as if they were to run their own business. But they're going to stick with us because they're doing so well and they're having so much fun, especially in the culture that we have developed of positivity and direction and no man left behind type mentality. I want them all to be successful, that they stick around and they're doing it the way that they want to do it.
So early days when we first met and we would go to Roosters, which again, if you're listening to this and you're out in Columbus, it's like the chicken wing joint, would be fair to say.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't go to Roosters for like 20 minutes. You're going there for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And not because it's fancy or anything. That's just it's a very chill atmosphere. But I saw so many of these young kids that you would say, oh, I found this guy somewhere. Or I found this guy somewhere. But it's like they're all like-minded. It's almost like they're Negan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they are one track about this. But what's funny is when you get them alone, a lot of them will say, I can't wait to start my own roofing company one day. And you don't discourage them.
I don't discourage them, because who wouldn't want to start their own roofing company? Look at what we have built. They see the success, the writing on the wall of, wow, who is this guy? Oh my gosh, like he's done what in the past couple of years? That's impressive. I want to be like, I'm honored. I'm honored and humbled that they want to come to work with me. We're going to give them the knowledge and the understanding of what it takes to be successful with it, to the point where they're like so confident in themselves. They're like, I can start my own business. By golly, you know what? There's a lot of contractors out there that had the same thing. Some of them did great. Some of them not so great. But we want to make sure that we take care of our people the way that people are supposed to be getting taken care of. No man left behind type mentality. And hopefully they stick around. We want them to keep growing with us. And if you do that, things are going to happen. You're always going to be recruiting. You're always going to be training with it. And the team can grow, and we can grow together. We hope they do with it, but they are definitely going to be ready to go to start their own career in their own business within a couple of years for sure.
But it also goes back to something we talked about on a couple shows before. If you keep recruiting the best people and you put everything you got into them, they're going to make you successful. But eventually, if they're that good or that excellent, they're going to move on. They're not really your competitor. It's kind of like you have a coaching tree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you look at where did this guy come from? Like they used to say, Bill Walsh. There were 30 coaches that came out of San Francisco that all became head coaches in college or the NFL. You're going to have that. one day you're going to have 10 to 15 of these guys that started with you. Is that success or is it failure?
Success. And I hope they call me. I hope we maintain that relationship. I know we're all going to be super busy, but it's success in its own way. I see even in Columbus, there's so many different contractors that have branched off from one contractor. And you know what? That's awesome. It's good to see. And they're over there, and I'm seeing on their Facebook and their things about and pictures of them with their roofs and their service agreement or in their sign with the homeowner. And it's contagious. They're doing it on their personal pages. So they are very proud. This is a very proud industry. And you have to be good at sales. You have to be great at sales to be able to even have these conversations. You have to have that education to know what you're talking about. There's a lot of things that go into it. It is years in the making and training to get to that level, because there's so many different kinds of projects and understanding of how this all works, from the installing part of it to just even if we work in insurance and all the processes with that, and just product knowledge. There's a lot to it. It's not something you just can I'm going to start a roofing company. You got to know what you're talking about. You better have studied up, because when it comes, you better have those answers for your customers.
We've run out of time, but now I have a new nickname. I think I'm just going to call you the future godfather of roofing, because you're going to be the guy who's leading all these other businesses to develop. So in the future, when you're watching this episode, this is where this started. This was RCS Roofing, RCS Radio, brought to you by RCS Roofing. We'll see you next week.